Hello and welcome to Devil's Advocate. Are the left parties the big loser in the tussle with the government? That's the key issue I shall explore today with CPM Politburo member and Rajya Sabha MP Sitaram Yechuri. Mr. Yechuri, let's start with the political situation confronting your party. The government has decided to go ahead with the Indo-US nuclear deal. The Samajwadi Party has replaced the left as the government's principal ally. Isn't that a double whammy against you?
No. How is it? I mean, you see, our opposition was to the nuclear deal. And we still maintain, and we've always maintained, that this is not in our country's interest.
Let me tell you why it's a double whammy against you. Today, not only are you marginalized domestically in terms of Indian politics in this country, but more importantly, your attempt to ensure that India and America don't form a strategic alliance has failed. On both counts, you've lost out.
I don't think it's failed. Just wait and see. It's too early for you to come to such pronouncements.
We say let's wait and see, but let's actually go back and look at the nuclear issue a little bit more in focus and detail. The truth is, you have nothing against civil nuclear relations with France and Russia. You have a huge problem accepting the Hyde Act. If you had played your cards properly, you could have very effectively opened the door to Russia and to France and kept the door shut as far as the Hyde Act was concerned. But your animus against America has meant that you've lost out on both counts.
No, it was not us. It was the government that shut the door out on Russia and France. When the Prime Minister was there, there was the possibility, everything was ready. All he had to do was to sign with Russia, but he didn't want to hurt the Americans.
No.
That's why it didn't happen, not because of us.
Can I correct you?
No, you cannot, because I know these are facts.
No, the Russian ambassador has gone on record in the newspaper saying, as has the French ambassador separately, that although they had arrangements in place, that they had even worked out a negotiated treaty, they couldn't sign it until the NSG clearance came. Therefore, the process the Prime Minister is pursuing is essential.
No, they couldn't implement it unless the NSG clearance came, but they could have signed it, like the 1, 2, 3 was signed.
The ambassadors disagree with you?
No,
they've gone public.
I know for a fact, the same ambassadors who told me, it will not be operationalized till the NSG gives you the...
They've gone public in the newspaper saying what I'm saying.
No, not what you're saying. They've gone public in the newspaper saying they cannot be operationalized unless the NSG gives.
They didn't use the word operationalized.
It cannot be implemented, okay?
They used the word signed.
No, signed is the final signing, Mr. Thapar, you understand. 1, 2, 3 is also only initialized. It's not yet signed.
Come back to
1, 2, 3 is not yet signed. You also remember that.
Let me put it like this. If you had accepted the proposal the Prime Minister put to you to allow India to complete the IAEA stage and the NSG stage on the condition that the Prime Minister would come back to Parliament before operationalizing the 1, 2, 3, you could have effectively shut the door on Washington and opened the door to Paris and Moscow.
Once 45 countries agree to it, then you come back and tell us the whole world has agreed, everybody has agreed, it's only the CPM that is stopping it, and you think what they have now gone back on their own word, they won't do it then?
You mean to say you couldn't have trusted the Prime Minister to come back to Parliament, as he was saying, not just to you but in public?
Not a question of trust. The moment you get into the international community and get all the countries on line with you, and then you come back here and say that I'm not going to proceed ahead, that would put India itself, as a country I'm talking about, India itself in a greater position of shame.
On the contrary, it would have put India in a commanding position because, I'll explain. Because after the NSG clearance, India would have been in a position to carry out civil nuclear relations with Russia and with France, which would be entirely to our benefit. The one country that you are not interested in them doing relations with would have been America. You would have gained, the country would have gained, and there would have been no problem with the UPA.
Do you think America would have allowed you to get this through in the NSG when they say that you go with France and Russia and not with the USA? Which world are you living in, Mr. Thapar?
No.
In the NSG. Please,
the Americans would not
please, 1 second, bear with me. NSG functions on the basis of a consensus.
Absolutely.
And USA is part of the NSG. When you are going to say, I won't trade with you, but I'll do it with France and Russia, you think USA is going to agree?
America would have hoped that, in fact, the vote in Parliament after the NSG would have been in favor of signing the 1, 2, 3. But even, let me finish. But even if the vote had gone against signing the 1, 2, 3, something that would have benefited India is that once you've opened the doors to Russia and once you've opened the doors to France, the new administration in America, even if it's a Democrat that's opposed to, would have been forced to allow the same terms to go through, because otherwise America would would be the loser. In every way you would have gained.
Your basis is untenable. They would not, America would not allow you to go ahead with any other country if they were not included.
The truth of the matter, Mr. Yechuri, and I will phrase myself very delicately because I don't want to give away any secrets. You know this and I know this, that what I'm suggesting was in fact recommended to the government by the American side as one way of ensuring that the deal was in such a position that if it didn't pass under Bush, it would pass under the new administration. You know that, I know that, and you know something else.
It can still pass under the new administration.
You know something else, that when this was put to Prakash Karat in June, he first indicated to the government that he was willing to go along. 24 hours later, inexplicably, he changed his mind and became rigid. So this was something that you teetered on the brink of almost accepting.
I don't know if it was put to our General Secretary, but I don't think it was put to the General Secretary.
Government sources say so.
But I don't know which sources, because but anything that was put, we presume would have come to us in the Politburo.
The truth is that in fact on 2 occasions government sources say that suggestions were made to Prakash Karat which he initially found reasonable, he was prepared to go with, then inexplicably 24 hours later he changed his mind. They say that in fact the left in the shape of the CPM has been flip-flopping.
No, listen Mr. Thapar, everything that we have taken have been decisions of our Politburo and Central Committee, and all these decisions, whatever we have been taken, we have stuck to that, and we have been absolutely reasonable and completely transparent. So I don't know what are these proposals that were given. I have no idea, because none of that has come before us as a party.
You say you've been completely reasonable, you say you've been completely transparent. Let me put this to you. Now that you've withdrawn support, publicly Prakash Karat has said that he will do everything in his power to ensure that the Indo-US nuclear deal doesn't go through. What is he envisaging now?
The whole point is, if this government does not survive, then the deal doesn't go through.
But if the government does survive, then what's within his power to stop it?
Then nothing. We only go to the people saying this is reasons why we are opposed to it.
So the only thing that he can do, so the only thing that he can do is to perhaps, as I should put it in quotations, machinate to ensure the government doesn't survive. That's all he can do.
No, but whether the government survives or not, that is an issue which will be dependent on all the other parties, on what positions they'll take. We are opposing it. Whoever else wants to oppose it, let them take their decisions that will determine whether the government stays or goes.
He says he is determined to do everything in his power to stop the deal, and as you say, the only way you can stop the deal is to bring the government down on the floor of the House. Will you be voting against the government in a vote of confidence in Parliament?
Yes, we will.
100%?
Absolutely.
Even if that means voting with the BJP and on the same side?
It won't be voting with the BJP.
On the same side?
No, on the same side. Yeah, like I've always said, if you travel in a train, you can't choose your co-passengers.
So you're quite happy to travel with the BJP?
No, but what can we do?
That makes you fellow travelers?
I want to reach my destination. And my destination is opposition to this US.
The point is, you can't reach your destination without the active help of the BJP. Whether you solicit it or whether it comes voluntarily, the point is that help is contingent on your success.
Listen to me, Mr. Thapar. If the BJP were ever keen on actually stopping this deal, they could have brought in motion of no confidence in the last 4.5 years. They have not. They want to curry favor with USA on the one hand. On the other hand, they want to try and be
Will the left therefore...
let them decide what they want to do.
Will the left therefore table its own vote of confidence?
There's no vote of confidence. The government will table a trust motion.
And you'll respond to that?
Yes.
Let me put it like this. The Indian Express claims that Jyoti Basu has asked the CPM leadership to stop it withdrawing support and not to bring the government down on the floor of the House.
I spoke to Jyoti Basu about an hour ago. Not a single suggestion of this nature was ever put to
Was any such suggestion made to Nirupam Sen and Buddhadev Bhattacharya?
No, I don't. I mean, anything.
I don't think you were saying?
No, I think no. Because I don't know.
What do you mean you think you know?
No, I think no.
What do you mean?
Why?
I think no.
Because
why are you putting in the word think?
I'll tell you what I mean. Because knowing Jyoti Basu, he'll never talk to individuals in the Politburo. If there's any suggestion he has, he will actually make it to the Politburo as a whole.
You know, that sounds like an explanation.
I think no.
It sounds like a hope. And when you re-emphasize, I think no, what you're really saying is you don't know for sure.
Why? I think the point is, I'm saying definitely.
Why don't you ring up Buddhadev Bhattacharya and ask him?
I spoke to Jyoti Basu himself.
And he didn't mention it, but did you ask him?
If he had to, he would have told me himself, because he called.
Not necessarily.
On some other matter. He called on some other matter. And he would have told me.
All right, let me put this to you. The first sense in which you've lost is that you've ceased to be an important ally, and you've been unable to influence the government and stop them establishing a strategic relationship with America. The second sense in which you've lost out is that the influence you wielded, you no longer do. You were a party that mattered. Today you're a party of very little consequence.
Don't jump the gun, Mr. Thapa. Neither of this has happened.
It has happened.
Where?
You don't matter to the government anymore.
Let's see the trust vote. Let's see what happens.
Even if you were to bring the government down, it would be the BJP that would claim the credit, not you.
Why?
Because the larger numbers are theirs, not yours.
No, why didn't they move a motion of no confidence earlier?
Well, they didn't choose to.
That's it, obviously.
But it's not you. You're not moving a vote of confidence either. You're not moving a vote of confidence either.
No, because of our withdrawal of support, this trust motion has come.
Let me put it like this.
Otherwise, it won't come. Remember that.
You used to claim credit for the fact that there were certain important decisions in the national interest to stop the government from taking. You stopped disinvestment, you stopped banking reform, you stopped pension reform, you stopped insurance caps being raised. Now that you've withdrawn support, those decisions which you stopped in the national interest, the government's free to take. What's happened to the national interest?
Of course.
It's been forsaken.
No, we will still oppose it.
You may oppose it, but the government will pass it because they now have a new majority.
Well, the other parties who are there in the government, let me see whether they'll support it.
I put it to you that from the standpoint of the principles that you support, from the standpoint of the people you represent, you would have been better off sticking with the government and checking and restraining their action rather than withdrawing support and giving them a free hand to do what they want.
And in the bargain, make India a subordinate ally of US imperialism. I'm sorry, that's not acceptable.
You really believe that?
Yes, of course.
You sure you haven't become a prisoner of your own ideology?
No, not at all. I mean, look at it. I mean, why the Hyde Act? If Russia doesn't have one, your France doesn't have one, why does the US want a Hyde Act?
Because America has an atomic energy act which Russia and France don't have. That's why you need a way around it. You know the answer yourself.
No, they have their own domestic laws.
But none which actually prohibits in the way in which the American Atomic Energy Act of 49 does.
Have a one-line act saying we are giving a waiver on this issue for India. Why this huge Hyde Act with all these conditions?
Because they have a domestic legislation condition.
What? They don't. Come on, there's no condition.
Do you know what you're doing? I put it to you. You're cutting your own nose and you're ending up spiting your own face. You're the big losers.
Neither way, Karan. You see, we have taken a principled position saying that this is not in country's interest. And we have stuck to it. We have been sincerely following what we have said.
All right.
And transparent about it.
In which case, let's take a break then. Let's come back and talk about you. We'll be back in a moment's time. See you after the break. Welcome back to Devil's Advocate in an interview with CPM Politburo member and Rajya Sabha MP Sitaram Yechuri. Mr. Yechuri, let's talk about you. It's widely believed that you were striving to try and find a middle ground, a compromise between the UP and the left. How sorry are you that you didn't succeed?
Well, there was no compromise if the government was determined to go ahead. You see, the point was that 2 years ago, we told the government, if you proceed with the IAEA thing, then the deal is on autopilot. We can't permit you to do that.
The government sources say that Sitaram Yechuri was accommodating, he was reasonable, he was understanding. The problem was the adamant, inflexible, rigid attitude of Prakash Karat.
Well, that is the type of propaganda that continues. I was away on an official program at the invitation of the UK government for 4 days, and there's speculation that because I was not for the course that the party had adopted, that's why I went away. There can be nothing further from the truth.
Well, actually, let me put this to you. The invitation that you responded to from the UK government has been pending for a year. At a moment when your relationship with the government was in crisis, you had such excellent reason to postpone it one more time.
Because I'll tell
if you didn't, surely you were distancing yourself from your own party.
Not at all, Mr. Thapa. Answer is very simple. Because there were no more any decisions to be taken. All decisions were taken. 2 years ago, this decision was taken, endorsed by our party congress. The moment the government goes ahead to IAEA, we withdraw support.
Let me tell you, something that you could have affected had you chosen to stay in India. At a press conference before you went to the UK, you gave the country an assurance that the left would not withdraw support when the Prime Minister was out of the country. That's exactly what the left did, and they embarrassed India.
Why? The Prime Minister had no business, I think, at that moment to make that announcement while he was flying to Japan.
He was on Indian soil. He was still on Air India.
Soil of Indian soil.
And let me tell you something else.
Please listen.
Did he not get a deadline from Prakash Karat to respond by the 7th to say whether he was going? And he replied and he said very soon.
2 hours before the Prime Minister said that, 2 hours before the Prime Minister said that, a letter from Pranab Mukherjee comes to us saying that we'll meet on the 10th and then we will take the decision.
Absolutely. So all the Prime Minister did was to answer by saying, I'm going very soon. He's not saying when he's going. He gave no date.
Prime Minister was not to answer. The letter was written to Pranab Mukherjee. Pranab Mukherjee answered We were to meet on the 10th. The Prime Minister on his own, he broke the script. The Prime Minister, absolutely.
What script did he break? What script did he break?
This is the script, that we sent the letter saying by 7th, tell us, are you going to go ahead or not, to Pranab Mukherjee as the convener of the committee. Pranab Mukherjee replies, we'll meet on the 10th, and then from there the further decision will be taken. Number 2. Number 3, the Prime Minister then leaves 2 hours after we get this letter, and then chooses to announce that they are going ahead.
Now let me respond to that. When Pranab Mukherjee said to you that we'll meet on the 10th and a decision will be taken, everyone knew, you included, that the decision was going to be taken in favor of going. When the Prime Minister 2 hours later said we're going very soon, he didn't set a date, he simply said what everyone knew. Where was the contradiction?
Not everyone knew. Contradiction lies in this. That was the first statement by the government saying that definitively that they are going ahead. The Prime Minister made this statement on his way to the G8 summit, which was not to be made, I think, and I'm pretty sure that he jumped the gun. I don't know why he did it, I don't know.
Even if you think you're right in saying the Prime Minister erred, does it necessarily require you to embarrass the country when the Prime Minister is abroad to make India look small in the eyes of the world?
No, looking small. 2 years, for 2 years, we've said, the moment you say you're going ahead, we will withdraw support.
Could you not have said?
Could he not have not said, number one? Could he not have said it here in India before going?
Let me say this.
Could he not have waited till he came back?
Let me say this. I accept for argument's sake that the Prime Minister made a mistake, as you allege. Do you have to compound it by making a mistake of your own? Can't you for once actually say that in the national interest we'll keep quiet, we will respond when the Prime Minister returns?
See, the moment...
You'd have gone up in estimation.
No, Mr. Thapar. The Prime Minister knew, the country knew, everybody knew, the moment they take the step towards going to the IAEA, we'll withdraw support. This was a known fact.
Sounds like vengeance to me.
No, it's a known fact. For 2 years, this has been known.
It sounds like vengeance.
Why did he choose to say that on his way to G8?
I'm saying to you, if you made a mistake, you have to make one of your own.
What mistake? I mean, a very crucial mistake.
Let me put it like this. Today, the relationship you had with the UPA, which lasted for just over 4 years, has collapsed in bitterness, in acrimony, and perhaps even invective.
Not really. You've seen all the UPA allies, you've seen how they've spoken.
You're accusing the Prime Minister of deceit, Prakash Karat says so. He accuses him of betrayal, Prakash Karat says so. That's not acrimony, that's not bitterness?
Listen, look at all the UPA allies, what they are saying. And secondly, Mr. Thapar, will you please understand, we were told in November last year that before they proceed to the IAEA, they will take the findings of this committee into account. This committee's findings were to be taken into account on the 10th. And till the 10th, okay, in the 10th meeting you say, we agree to disagree.
But
why did you do this?
Absolutely. Just because they made a mistake, they got it wrong, do you have to compound it with another which embarrasses India? Not the PM, it's India you've embarrassed.
It's not so simple as making a mistake. It is a very clear, deliberate thing. I don't know if the Prime Minister did it himself, whether the Congress party itself did it, but it was, I mean, I don't expect something like this to happen without a thought.
Are you suggesting when you say the Prime Minister did it deliberately that he was actually sabotaging the UPA left committee?
I don't know what was his intention. I don't want to venture into that. But the fact that what he said was something that ought not to have been said when he was going to
Do you regret the acrimony and bitterness that exists between the two sides today?
I don't think this acrimony is there to the extent what you are trying to portray.
The press thinks so. Every politician thinks so.
The press has its role to play, unfortunately, which is
Then let me put it like this. Then let me put it like this. If you really believe the acrimony is not as strong and as great as the press is saying, then if after the next elections, the only way of keeping out of power what you consider communal forces is another alliance between the UPA and the left, is that still possible?
Depends on the policies they'll follow. Please remember, this government we are supporting on the common minimum program. Please bear with me 1 minute. The common minimum program does not contain the Indo-US nuclear deal.
But if the next time they offer you policies or a common minimum program that is acceptable, the bitterness and acrimony of today won't stand in the way. In other words, this experience won't be a problem. It all depends upon the common minimum program and the policies.
And the assurance that they give us that they'll follow that program.
But what's very important is you're saying
without betraying like now.
But what you're saying is that this experience will not be a hurdle. In other words, you won't turn around and say to them, once bitten, twice shy. No, you won't say that.
That I cannot assure right now. That depends on the circumstances there. But this experience will definitely be a shadow.
A shadow, yes, but not an obstacle.
Shadow, yes.
But not an obstacle.
Yeah, but again, as I said,
not an obstacle.
That depends on the circumstances then.
Absolutely, but not an obstacle.
Shadow, definitely.
But not an obstacle.
Shadow, definitely.
But not an obstacle.
But let us see the conditions then. It can turn into an obstacle.
Sitaram Yechuri, thank you very much indeed.